A system is just things that you do in an order to get an expected result. For instance, a system we're probably all familiar with are recipes. You follow a specific way of doing things with the ingredients and the timing, and you expect to get a specific result at the other end. If you've ever been to a restaurant and had an amazing Reuben sandwich one day, and then you go back a couple months later and you think to yourself, this didn't taste exactly as good as it did first time I had it. Well, they probably don't have a system. On today's Harness the Power of Planning podcast, I'm going to talk about systems and how they apply to your daily life. And then in part 2, I'm going to talk about the specific system of creating a morning ritual on episode 104 of the Harness the Power of Planning podcast, starting now. Hi, happy Thursday. Alegre here from Beyond Your Wildest Dreams and the Harness the Power of Planning podcast. You might be watching this live, in which case, welcome. Feel free to join the chat. I do see the chat. And if you are listening to the recording, this does go up as the Harness the Power of Planning podcast. So you can always re-listen wherever you get your podcast. This will be episode number 104. Very exciting. And if you're new to me, I'm Alegre. I'm the co-author of these 4 workbooks. They're all designed to be gone through in an hour and to help you in some aspect of your life, starting with, hey, I need to be more productive. Well, then our bestseller, 3, 2, 1, Done, will help you create a framework that will make sure that you are being productive with your time. If you feel like, forget productivity, I just need a spare second for myself, well then, welcome to Rock Your Morning, which is all about creating a morning ritual. And if you are thinking to yourself, my family, we need to get on the same page. We're not communicating well. We don't seem to be working towards the same goals. Well, then rock your mission. It's all about getting your family on the same page. Our family has had a family mission statement for 13 years now. I know that because we started putting it together before our kiddo could speak. And so it's been an amazing tool for our family. And then finally, rock your holidays. Now, look, I know the holidays are still a little ways away, but summer's coming up. Maybe you have some time to get through this book. It'll take you about 45 minutes. And this will set you up for success so that when the holidays do roll around, you are prepared with a plan and you can ensure that you're having as much fun as you are creating fun for other people. So welcome. If this is your first time to my live video cast, well then, just to give you an idea of how I do this, I pick a topic to discuss, and today's topic is going to be systems. What are systems? How can you use them in your daily life? I will explain. But before I get started with that, I'm going to pull a card from this handy dandy deck that I keep on my desk. I always love what these cards tell me. You are the one who can stretch your own horizon. Edgar Magnin. You are the one who can stretch your own horizon. Edward Magnin. So I always think about the fact that wherever you are in life, it can be fantastic, and yet you will never really know what is around the corner unless you venture around the corner, unless you stretch your own horizon. Hello, Arun. Welcome to my podcast. And if you haven't followed me before, then you might not know that I do stand-up comedy for fun. I'm a little more serious than just random. I actually produced my own show for the first time a few months ago, and I'm going to have a second show coming up I'm very excited about. And what I want to say is if you want to find out more about my stand-up comedy journey, watch episode 100 because I talk about it at great length. But this comes back to this whole topic of stretching your own horizon, because there was times when I've been doing stand-up comedy and I'm like, why am I doing this? Because it's definitely not for the money, let me tell you. And in a lot of ways, stand-up comedy is really freaking scary. And I can tell you, my body still experiences that fear because I have this Fitbit here. And I was doing a comedy competition where, because I advanced up through the rounds, I graduated to a night when the competition was, 200, 300 people in a room, and it was packed. And I've spoken to way more people than 2 or 300 people, but stand-up comedy is its own beast. You have to be you're really putting yourself out there in an unusual way. And when I looked back at my heart rate from when I did the 5 minutes of stand-up comedy, by the way, just 5 minutes, you could see my heart went from being, totally normal, like around 100, and then boop, up to 150, just like spike up there for 5 minutes and then came right back down. And I sent a picture, a screenshot of my heart rate to a friend of mine who said, "If I didn't know you were doing stand-up comedy, I would have thought you were having a heart attack." And that's kind of what it feels like. So you might wonder, why do you do it? That's a really good question. Well, you know what? It's about stretching my horizons. Like this quote right here. I did a training in March with another author named Diane Allen, and she trains on flow, getting into flow state. And one thing I realized from her training is that the way I get into flow state is words. I love words. I can get lost whether I am writing a speech or a book or a PowerPoint presentation or a stand up comedy set. It's just so fun for me. And so even though there are moments where I've thought to myself, I don't know why I'm doing this stand-up thing. My heart rate is freaking out. I'm wondering, why am I doing this? It takes time away from my family. It takes, I'm not making money doing this. That could change. Hey, if you can help me change that, I'm all ears. So what I've figured out is that I like doing stand up because it allows me to play with words in a way that I don't get to play with in any other part of my life. And that's really fun for me. And honestly, it's been a fun journey. I've learned a lot about myself through the stand up comedy journey. So you are the one who can stretch your own horizon, Edgar Magnan. I totally agree with this. And I feel like not only do you learn so much about yourself, but the journey can take you to unexpected places. For instance, when I am doing my trainings and out and about in the world, it absolutely helps me that I do stand-up comedy because it helps me with my interaction with the audience. It helps me, be quick on my feet. And let me tell you, doing a prepared PowerPoint is a breeze compared to stand-up comedy. So it sort of forces you into this really uncomfortable situation, and then you can come back down and be like, "Oh, my daily life is really easy." So it sets your tolerance level a lot higher. So there you go. So today's topic is systems. What are they and how can you use them in your daily life? Now, if you're listening to my podcast, you might not know that I recently started doing something on social media, which is I upload these 2-minute thoughts, and maybe I should upload them as podcasts too. But anyway, that's aside the point. If you want to see them, they're really spontaneous, organic thoughts that come up while I'm walking. I call it wisdom while walking. And I've been enjoying what's been coming up. So I'm going to keep doing it. And I've been using the hashtag WWW. So if you want to see the first one, you can go on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube and look up LinkedIn as well, and look up hashtag WWW1 to get the first one. I think I tagged them all correctly. I might have to go back and check. So that's how I'm trying to tag them. And in 2 of the 3 Wisdom While Walkings, I talked about systems. And I want to explain to you what is a system because we go through these cycles of jargon in probably any industry, but in productivity, I've started noticing a lot of use of the word systems. And I think that it can be confusing for people, or it sounds too businessy, and people might think, how would I apply this to my daily life? So I shall explain. A system is just things that you do in an order to get an expected result. For instance, a system we're probably all familiar with are recipes. You follow a specific way of doing things with the ingredients and the timing, and you expect to get a specific result at the other end. If you've ever been to a restaurant and had an amazing Reuben sandwich one day, and then you go back a couple months later and you think to yourself, this didn't taste exactly as good as it did the first time I had it. Well, they probably don't have a system. They don't have a systematized, consistent way of doing things that ensures that you're getting the quality you want, which consumers expect. Consumers expect a certain level of quality. They want to know that they can count on you to deliver. Well, you can do this in your daily life. A system is really just like a recipe. It's the things that you do in order to get the result that you want. And the most obvious system that I can explain to you is this habit of having a self-care ritual. Because I don't just have a self-care ritual in order to have, nice skin or in order to make sure that I'm taking my supplements. I have a self-care ritual so that I can feel good, one, and two, so that I can focus on other things that I want to do in life by sort of getting these things out of the way that are just kind of baseline hurdles, right? Like if you have something in your life that is taking all of your focus, let's say health related, whenever you have a health issue, as I have had, I was once bedridden for 3 months and told that I would never be able to be as active as I had been. That was my whole life. Learning to walk again was my whole life. I couldn't think about anything else, which is why I guard my health so protectively now, because I want to be able to think about other things. I don't want that to take over. And so the reason I have a morning ritual or system, ritual, habits, they're all basically the same thing. I would say the difference between a ritual and a habit is a ritual is you do 10 things to get one outcome. You do those enough times, eventually you form a habit, or as we say in the habit formation world, you form a habit stack. A habit stack is when you do a bunch of habits all together and it becomes a stack of habits that you do. So ritual, habits, system, a habit stack, same idea. A ritual, I like the word ritual, especially when it comes to my morning and evening rituals, because I do think of them as a sacred time that I protect for myself. And so I like the term ritual because I like the meaning and the implications, whereas system sounds kind of sterile to me. But that's why I wanted to explain it to you all, because you can use systems in your daily life. For instance, a really simple system that I explained in Wisdom While Walking the other day was we like avocados in my house. However, avocados take a certain amount of time to get ripe. And so I have a system that is designed to ensure we always have ripe avocados, which is every Sunday, I buy 4 avocados at the farmer's market. There's 3 of us in our family, and really only 2 of us eat avocados regularly. So that way we have enough avocado to put on our salads every day and to have the occasional guacamole. Okay? And so I buy 4 avocados on Sunday at the farmer's market. They're always pretty hard. And that, since they ripen at different times, that allows me to make sure that I'll have avocados in 7 to 10 days. So what avocados am I eating today? I'm eating the avocados I bought the week earlier. And so I just always do this, 4 avocados every Sunday in order to ensure that I have ripe avocados in 7 to 10 days time. Simple system. Another system that I have is when I go walk my dog. I walk my dog every day. And first thing I do is I put on a weighted vest. And then I put on one of those safety vests over it, the fluorescent one, because one, I want to be visible when I'm out walking and it has pockets. And two, it covers up the big, bulky weighted vest that really kind of looks scary. And then I grab my hat and my sunglasses. And you'll see I wear the same sunglasses every day while I'm hiking because these are the sunglasses that live in the area where all of these things live together. So it's just a system. I put on the weighted vest and then I put on the fluorescent vest and then my hat and my glasses. And I always make sure I have a earbud so I can listen to an audiobook while I'm walking so I can be learning while walking. And then I walk my dog really fast. It takes me 26 minutes to do it. It's a mile and a half. I time it regularly because that's what it takes. I have to walk fast enough to get my heart rate up. And then when I get home, I basically reverse that. Everything goes back where it belongs because that's how I find it easily. And then I feed my dog a little bit of food because she's hungry after our walk. And so that's that system. And that system ensures that my doggy gets my walk, I get my walk, I get in some learning, and I'm also getting in some weight bearing exercise. So there's another simple system. So I would encourage you, whatever it is that you want to have more of in your life, let's say you want to work on being more hydrated. Oh, interesting. Avocado is lovely with sugar and milk. I've never tried it that way. Do you make a smoothie? For those of you who are watching me live, feel free to comment. I do read the comments. And whatever it is that you want more of in your life, whether it's, you're trying to get more hydrated, or you're trying to get your supplements in, or you're trying to get more sleep. Oh my gosh, having a system or a habit stack to ensure you get good sleep is so important. This actually has a term. It's called having good sleep hygiene. If you do nothing else, if you're not sure where to start with regards to your health and creating a system, I would create a system around having good sleep. And I'll have to talk about that in a separate podcast because that's a whole topic in and of itself. But whatever it is that you want to have more of in your life, take some time to think about what are the steps that would help me to have more of that. Now, when before I had a morning ritual, I used to wake up in the morning feeling stressed because I didn't know how I was going to start my day. It was like my day was barreling at me and I didn't know where to start. And there's an adage in the productivity world: every 1 minute of planning will save you 10 minutes of doing. And I can tell you that my morning ritual has absolutely saved me a ton of time and energy because I don't wake up in the morning with my wheels spinning. And so it does take a little bit of time to think about, okay, how do I want to be purposeful about your day? But it saves you so much energy. And I think a lot of us have this false belief that thoughts don't waste energy because they're like these ephemeral things that you can't see and you can't touch and feel it. But your brain takes 2% of your body weight, but uses about 20% of your calories. That's right. 2% of your body weight, but 20% of your calories. So thoughts are energy, and useless thoughts are a waste of energy. So I used to wake up in the morning, my brain spinning, like, what am I going to do? How should I start my day? Blah, 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 blah. And then I started creating a morning ritual. Now, part of my morning ritual has been in place forever, and that is making my bed. I have always been a bed maker going back to when I was a kiddo. And the reason why is because I just like the way a made bed looks. However, if you decide that starting your morning with, less anxiety, using less energy, kind of more of a good start with the day, if you decide that's what you want to create a system for, then I will tell you that making your bed is one of the best things that you can do because, one, it takes 30 seconds. I've timed it. It doesn't take a long time to make your bed. Plus, there's a ton of brain science about the benefits of making a bed. You might be shocked, but go ahead and do an internet search for it, and you will find tons of brain science because, one, it gives you a quick win in the morning. Two, it makes your room feel neater. That probably seems obvious, but our beds are one of the biggest things in our rooms. So it'll make you feel better. But three, and this is one of my favorite reasons for making a bed helps you have better sleep because when you unmake your bed, it actually triggers your brain to start winding down. Oh, okay, it's time to calm down. I'm going to, power down. So if you don't know where to start with a system for your morning, consider making your bed. Okay, so take a little bit of time, think about an area of your life where you want to make a change, and then think about the little activities you can do that will start creating a system. Now, I don't think it's always the most efficient way to establish a system by coming up with 10 steps that you're going to do, because doing 10 new things that you've never done before, that's challenging. So For instance, when I decided that I was going to have a morning ritual, I started with what I was already doing, which was making my bed. And then I slowly added on to that. And actually, that's a great place to say, I'm going to start part two of the podcast right now, which is talking about using systems to ensure that you're getting self care. Okay. So when I started thinking about what I wanted my morning ritual to look like, I already made my bed. But the next thing I added on to it was drinking warm lemon water because I read somewhere, like, first of all, obviously you need to be hydrated, but I had read somewhere that lemon water is really good for your gut and just for getting things going. And so I started doing warm lemon water. And then as time has gone on, my morning hydration system has grown. So when I wake up in the morning, as soon as I go to the kitchen, I put on the kettle for my warm lemon water. While that water is boiling, I then prepare 3 drinks, not just 1. So, I make the warm lemon water, but then I also brew some tea, which is this is has green tea in it. It also has a bunch of good herbs like turmeric for inflammation support, and it also has hibiscus, which is a really great source of polyphenols. Okay, so I also make this tea, and then I also make water with 2.5 tablespoons of chia seeds because I've really been working on prioritizing fiber in my diet, and I'm trying to get 30 grams of fiber a day. And the chia seeds give me 10 grams, which is such a great, fast way to get chia seeds. So, this is part of my morning self care ritual, my morning system for hydration is I make the lemon water, I make this tea, and I make the chia water. And I usually don't get around to drinking this until much later in the day. It's always cold by the time I drink it. But because I have a system for making the 3 drinks at once, it ensures that I do it. I have found that if I just make the lemon water first thing in the morning and then I wait and I think about making the tea later, and then I wait and I think about making the chia water later, I'm much less likely to actually make and drink all 3. And I want all 3 for the polyphenols, for the hydration, and for the fiber. And so my system is I make all 3 at once, and it always gets done when I do it that way. I always end up drinking it, and I feel so much better. And that's the thing with systems is that if you're getting results you like, you don't even have to think about doing it because your body wants to do it. Like, your brain is like, "Oh, I like how this thing makes me feel. I'm gonna establish this as a habit." And so now I don't even really notice that I'm doing these things. Like, sometimes I'll actually go into the kitchen meaning to do something else, like grabbing the ladder that lives in the kitchen, and all of a sudden I'm making lemon water and chia water, and I don't even notice because my brain is so used to, "Oh, first thing in the kitchen? Okay, I'm gonna make I'm gonna make all my drinks," and that's my little system. So, self-care is a great place to have a system because, look, if you are not feeling taken care of, if you're not feeling mentally and emotionally and physically well, then it's really hard to show up in the other parts of your life. It's really hard to show up professionally. It's really hard to show up as a friend or family member or a partner. It's really hard to show up creatively. Like, I'm only able to, have my business, be a mom and partner, and do my stand-up comedy because I have my self-care on autopilot. Like, I know that I have all these systems that ensure that I'm hydrated and that I'm fortified with food and with, supplements and polyphenols and all that stuff. That's what gives me the energy and the bandwidth to do all the things that I like to do, frankly. So, if you are feeling like you don't have the time or energy to pursue things that interest you or to, let's say to take your career to the next level. Like, you don't have the time or energy to investigate that degree or look at the job postings or go to that networking event. well, then I would encourage you to look at your self-care. Are you feeling emotionally, physically fulfilled, full? If not, then this is where I would start having a system, because it's like when you're in the airplane and the flight attendant says, in case of emergency, put on your oxygen mask first. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you're going to be passed out in the aisle, unable to help anybody. In fact, you're going to be an obstacle to everyone else. So, put on your oxygen mask first by using what I explained about systems, and come up with a self-care system for yourself. And if you don't know where to start with that, well, then I would say start with a morning ritual, because a morning ritual sets the tone for your entire day. If you have a good morning, you're much more likely to have a good day. If you, quote unquote, wake up on the wrong side of the bed, well, we all know how that turns out. That's why that phrase exists. And there's a QR code below. There's a QR code below. If you scan that code, you will be directed to where you can get a copy of my book, Rock Your Morning: 3 Simple Steps to Take Control of Your Morning. It talks a little bit more about creating a morning ritual, and you can get it as a book, a paperback, or as an ebook. Makes a great gift. And take your morning ritual, or lack thereof, to a new level. I can tell you that I'm not exaggerating when I say that my morning ritual is what keeps me sane and healthy. I really used to feel like my day was just barreling at me. I'd have all these things, and I'd feel like I didn't know how I was going to be able to do any of them. And the reason why was because I wasn't taking care of myself. I didn't have my oxygen mask on. That's why I felt overwhelmed by everything else that was coming my way. But now that I have my oxygen mask firmly on, I'm able to do everything I want to do, which is pretty crazy sometimes because I got a lot going on. Like, for instance, I will be in New York in a couple weeks because I sing in a choir that is going to be singing at Carnegie Hall. Okay? How do I have the energy to do that? Because I do my self-care, right? I produced my first stand-up comedy show in March, and I'm setting a date for my second one. I have 2 locations. I just have to pick the location and the best date, whatever. But again, I only have the energy to do these things because I have my systems in place to ensure that everything that I need to get done is getting done when I want it to get done by using these systems, including this podcast right now. This podcast has a whole bunch of systems attached to it. And actually, if you're watching the live version right now, I don't usually go live at this time, but I had a breakdown in one of my systems and my audio was off when I recorded this the first time around at 9:30. So usually the live broadcast goes out at 9:30 a.m. Pacific, wherever you want to find it. But if you ever want to watch this again, you can always find it as the Harness the Power of Planning podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. If you are ready to take your planning to the next step, consider doing my on-demand course, also called Harness the Power of Planning. You can find that at tinyurl.com/HPOP on demand. That's tinyurl.com/HPOP on demand. And be sure to like and subscribe wherever you listen. And remember, planning makes everything easier. Thanks for listening to the Harness the Power of Planning podcast. Be sure to follow and rate and subscribe wherever you listen.